Chapter 12, 10th grade. What's your love GPA? Grade point averages are a tool used in high school to determine exactly where students are doing well and where they may need further instruction and increased study time. Your sophomore year presents a dynamic opportunity to change the trajectory of your education goals for college. Never believe that it is too late to change your direction. If you discover that the track you are on is not taking you toward the life you and your spouse really want, have the conversation needed to focus on plans for change. You will need to assess the types of classes you have been taking and decide if you need different classes to receive the college credit you want in line of your goals. If you are a person who struggles with indecisiveness and are not sure what you want to do with your life, but you are married to a person that does, then follow them, support them 100%. They are your path to discovering your purpose. Selflessly devote your focus to helping them reach their fullest potential and bring their ideas to fruition. Through your support of a person that has vision and direction, you will be allowed to discover your direction as well. What you make happen for others will happen for you. For those interested in applying to prestigious universities, high GPAs and good report cards are like good credit scores to the adult looking to finance a home or a new car. If your marriage had a report card, what subjects would be on it? And what grade would you give to your spouse in each discipline? What grade do you think you would receive in each subject? When a student's priority is to further their education, their report card carries a lot of weight. So if you are not being scored high enough to the satisfaction of your spouse or yourself, immerse your marriage into the subjects that will make a difference for the future of your union. Some students are satisfied with a 2.75 GPA because that's all that's required to be accepted into a community college. Other students are happy with 3.0s, and some students work hard to achieve and maintain a 4.0 GPA. Some marriages are satisfied with just getting by because that's all that's needed to maintain a life they are comfortable with. Other students of love and marriage are happy with 3.0s because that's better than what most marriages work to achieve, and they're proud of it. But some couples work above average to achieve and maintain a marriage that continuously seeks higher learning and accomplishment. Intelligence in a student is the ability to adapt to change. Marriage report card. Let's explore some samples of a marriage syllabus and marriage report card as you prepare your mind for what your class syllabus may entail and how you may be graded in different areas of marriage at this point in time in your relationship. The GPA is important to students looking to further their education. A report card is the tool used to score a student according to each discipline and thus gather a tally as an all-encompassing grade for the way a student is performing in school as a whole. The report card is a valuable resource for determining what classes the student was enrolled in and how well they did, including attendance. Here is an example report card that you can use with your spouse to grade each other and spark conversation that brings praise, encouragement, and awareness to the subjects that need improvement. The report card exercise I suggest is to be done by both of you as an agreed upon method for communicating about areas of your relationship. If you have a spouse that is unwilling to participate by writing out their own report card for you as their teacher, I don't recommend you do this exercise alone and show it to them, as that can be offensive to a student that is not aware that they are being graded, or even aware of the concept that marriage is being compared to school in some book you are reading. If you have a willing participant, proceed as follows. List out the subjects as the teacher of your student/spouse that you feel deserve good grades and bad. For every subject you choose to include in the report card, make sure to leave a positive comment reflecting what improvements have been made in that subject since you first began working with your student in that area, along with the level of proficiency you hope your student will reach in a fair amount of time. For example, Jill, as the teacher, will write her name in as the teacher and her husband's name, Jack, as the student. Jill can pray over what subjects need to be addressed by her as the teacher in her marriage, and she will list them out as subjects. A subject or class can be anything at all and should be whatever you feel needs addressing in your relationship. Example report card. You have a column that says teacher, Jill, then student, Jack, then it'll say subject. The subject in this case is time, and the grade that Jill gave Jack is a C. Here's the report card comments. Jack, you have acknowledged my desire for more quality time and have taken steps toward committing an evening to me without the kids every Saturday night. Although you have been unable to keep this commitment, I am hopeful that through my positive attitude and work to improve in the subjects you have scored me low in, you will be soon excited to spend more time with me very soon. Next class. Subject, provision, grade, A+. Here's Jill's comments to Jack. Comments. Jack, you are such an amazing husband. Although we have our disagreements and both look forward to a day where we argue less, I would not trade you for the world. Thank you for always putting the welfare of our family at the top of your priorities and making sure we always have a roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, and food to eat. Subject, disagreements. Grade, D-. Comments. Jack, I look forward to a time when we can disagree without any raised voices or tempers. We may never get to a point where we agree on everything, but I don't think that means we have to get emotional and angry just because we aren't seeing things eye to eye. In fact, I believe that the less emotional we get in our conversations, the more we will be able to see things from each other's perspective. I love you. Jill. Two people will likely have different subjects on their report cards, and that's okay. Now you both have more information on where you are being evaluated and what it may take for you to make the grade for graduation into higher levels of marriage. You can also perform this exercise as a call and response, meaning one person calls out their grievances as the teacher in the form of a report card, a verbal report card, and the student creates a report card with the exact same subjects and then grades and comments in response to their spouse's evaluation of them. Here's another example. Teacher, Jack. Student, Jill. Subject, time. Grade, C. Comments. Jill, the time we spend with each other lately has been very tiresome for me, as I have been discouraged by you continuously when I attempt to discipline or bring correction to the kids. I miss the time we spend together before you became the mother that feels she has to protect her children from a loving father who wants to raise his children to understand boundaries and self-control. I don't think we should have to listen to tantrums and screaming children, but because they know you and I will argue with each other instead of being a team that supports each other in not allowing that behavior. The kids are walking all over us. I don't want to exist that way anymore. Jill, I love you, but something has to change. I need you to let me father our children. And then we can enjoy an evening at home together without having to get a babysitter every time. If I don't have to run from home to find peace, I know I can get an A from you in the subject of time. Subject: productivity and time management. Grade: B. Comments: Jill, you are an awesome mother, and I'm very grateful to have a wife that loves her children as much as you do. Now that you are no longer working in the corporate world, I have noticed a decline in your energy and daily performance with regard to teaching the kids and keeping the house organized. I know that you enjoy being needed and busy in a professional atmosphere, and I hope that you can find the same passion and determination to stay productive, even though your new daily tasks don't produce a actual paycheck. You are my other half, Jill. The amount of work I put in for my business and the feeling of accomplishment it gives me is something I know that you can achieve at home as soon as you get your bearings on the importance of what you do every day. The marriage report card and grade point average strategies can be fun tools to use for resolving otherwise not so fun issues in your relationship and bring needed conversation to the table. A great way to determine what topics need focus in your marriage and deserve a spot on the report card is going to be a conversation with your spouse that highlights both the proficiencies and incompetencies of you both. I bring this idea to you in 10th grade because to talk about areas we are struggling in with our spouse is one thing, but writing them down as a grading system demands a higher level of emotional maturity than that of which we may have been able to handle in elementary or middle school levels of our marriage education. In elementary school, eager young students get congratulatory stickers at the end of the day. In middle school, students work point systems to earn pizza parties. In high school, there is a higher expectation of students to focus on their work and respect the teacher and the classroom, with the reward being grades that reflect the effort they invest and the proficiency they possess. Not every subject comes easy to every student. Even though a student may exert extra efforts into a class they struggle in, a teacher who wants a student to succeed will offer extra help and extra credit to compensate for the shortcomings of a student who really wants to improve. Respect and Love 101. Amazing books have been written on the differences between men and women and the intrinsic natures that are frequently misunderstood by the opposite sex. I have heard it said that it would take a woman a lifetime and then some before she fully understood what it means to a man to be respected. Equally, a man may meet his last day on earth still pondering the depths of his wife's heart and what makes her feel truly loved. The realization of this dichotomy in the primary needs of man and woman begs further study, a step that has to stem from a desire to understand each other on a level you may have yet to tap into. For many years, my husband and I wearily circled back to an area of study that took me longer to pass than any grade I ever went through in school. When wives ask husbands questions regarding a decision he has made, it makes him feel insecure in his ability to lead. Unless he asks you, of course. That was an illogical concept for me for some time. not unlike many wives who think it is their duty to carry the burden of double checking everything their husband does or plans to do. What's wrong with simply asking a question when there's something you don't understand or want to understand better? If a primary need of a man is to feel respected by his wife, then the last thing a wife really wants to do is question the very thing that gives him his connection to God and his aptitude to provide for and cultivate his family, which is his ability to make decisions. A husband's connection to God through the decisions he feels led to make and the results that need to come from those decisions in the process of furthering his education and relationship with his authority should be an undisputed and undisrupted process. To the benefit of the wife, the husband who can make decisions and learn from them through the natural correction that comes from the universe will be able to rebound and make corrections faster than the husband who is fighting for his wife's support and exhausting his energy to make her understand him. Decisions made in insecurity are likely to fail, and I don't want to be the reason we fail or experience unnecessary delays. A husband depends on the respect, admiration, and trust from his wife to thrive and operate at his peak performance. But, honey, are you sure? God is our great marriage mediator, and if we as wives can trust in him to bring answers, correction, and understanding, we can ask less questions of our husbands that may cause them to second guess themselves and stifle their confidence. When the husband feels appreciated, respected, and trusted by his wife, he in turn supplies her with the love she depends on to fuel her own tank, leaving her never empty. Please do not view this as an oversimplification, but rather a solid base to start from and a place to return to when you find yourself in the middle of chaos and confusion. Trading tears. Crying can be very cathartic and healing and sometimes energizing and invigorating. Tears are a natural way for our body to release a buildup of energy, a way to release tension and frustration, and a way to communicate for those who aren't able to articulate their words or express themselves effectively. Tears can be productive and helpful when used sparingly and as an appropriate response to a situation that calls for it. Tears can also be very destructive when overused or as a means of manipulation and control. I spoke with a wife recently who said she is just tired, exhausted more so, from crying over the frustration her marriage causes her. My response to her was to just stop crying. People who are used to releasing their frustration in the same way repetitively throughout their life have convinced themselves that the mode they use to communicate and vent their frustration is the only way that will work for them. The irony of this thought process is that if crying, was actually working, a good cry session wouldn't be needed so often. Everything we do in life is a trade. We trade our time for earnings. We trade our affections for love and support. We trade years of focus and time in college for hopes of a career that we enjoy and will expectantly provide financial security. We trade our money for goods we consume, services that bring organization, and experiences that bring pleasure and peace. We trade our earned money through time we traded to earn that money to invest for future gains. Yeshua traded his blood at Calvary for the redemption of our souls. We are either making good trades or bad trades at every turn, and every trade has a cost. Some of us continue to trade addiction for our health and longevity of life. The best trades are the ones that take into account our future needs versus our present desires. The best trades are the ones that take into account our future needs versus our present desires. With your wisdom and your understanding, you have gained riches for yourself and gathered gold and silver into your treasuries. By your great wisdom in trade, you have increased your riches, and your heart is lifted up because of your riches. Ezekiel 28, 4-5. And so it was that when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants, to whom he had given the money, to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. For I say to you that to everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Luke 19:15 and 26. This verse is a great scripture to further explain why the rich stay rich and continue to gain more wealth, and why the poor stay and grow poorer. If we continually make poor trades, the Lord says that even the little we have will be redistributed to those who know how to improve and increase. Are we sowing tears in vain because you haven't sought out to invest your energy in a more productive method? Once you train yourself to stop crying and start resolving your communication issues with your spouse in more tactful means, you will look back on your years of tears as a great loss of time. Thankfully, we serve a God who promises to restore the time, but we have to make the changes first. The crying teacher. Oh, babe, you are crying, and I hear and understand you better. Your tears have now cleared the confusion and revealed all of my wrongs to me. I now completely understand where you are coming from and what I can do to fix everything. Said no husband ever. Looking back on my middle school years, actual school, not my marriage, I recall a teacher that would cry in class. At a parent-teacher conference that I will never forget, my mom finally got to see why I would come home from school frustrated and discouraged. The teacher expressed to my mother in the meeting that I was inquisitive, a word I couldn't wait to look up in my dictionary. I refrained from asking what the word meant, and I watched my teacher begin to cry as she vented to my mother about her struggles as a teacher of middle school. When we got in the car, I had the long-awaited satisfaction of my mother relating to me and the issues I was having with this teacher, Mrs. B. Mommy, what does inquisitive mean? It means Mrs. B thinks you ask too many questions, Delise. But I'm only trying to understand so I can get a better grade in her class. My mom comforted me by sharing with me that she could see Mrs. B was an immature teacher and was probably in the wrong profession, and that if I wanted to pass the grade, I should really hold back on the majority of questions that came to mind. I went back to class the next day, sensitive to the fact that my teacher felt threatened by my questions. And I decided I only had to get through that year and on to the next grade, not necessarily understanding any of it, Long speeches or lectures as a means to address your concerns and complaints in your relationship will most likely garner a frustrated and torn down morale in your student, possibly causing tears of sadness or frustration in either the teacher or the student. Practice having dialogue versus long monologues. Besides, a high school debate team never won a debate by crying or lecturing their peers tirelessly, rather by making good arguments and succinct points backed by fact. At the end of my year with Mrs. B, a student awards ceremony was conducted, and to my surprise, I received one. To my embarrassment and humiliation, it was not for proficiency or excellence in any area of academics, but rather, it was an award for inquisitiveness. I walked to the stage with a smile, trying to ignore the snickers and chuckles that came from the audience. I hated middle school. It hurt my feelings and solidified my growing negative perspectives of school as I walked toward the stage, knowing I caused my teacher so much frustration that she sarcastically presented me with an award for the very thing that she could not stand about me. Could she not find any positive traits that were not overshadowed by my desire to understand and my resulting tendency to ask a lot of questions? You would think I would have gotten married applying this knowledge of how certain questions or too many questions can be destructive. But instead, it was a lesson I had to relearn. And it took over 15 years of marriage for me to come to that realization. It does not have to take you that long. Every question does not have to be asked of your husband, and not every question has to be asked of your wife. By the end of 10th grade, sophomores should have an aptitude for understanding report cards, both as a student who needs to use it to identify personal strengths and weaknesses, and as a teacher who understands how to communicate the aptitude of their student through grades and constructive comments. The compounded lessons of elementary school and junior high have hopefully created a comprehensive understanding of the various facets of marriage and the many mature ways to effectively communicate. The sophomore husband understands that it is significant to learn what it takes to make his wife feel loved. Likewise, the sophomore wife has begun the process of applying what she has learned with regard to her husband's need for her respect, her trust, and her admiration. Thank you so much for listening to 10th grade. Join me for the next chapter, 11th grade.